Welcome to part 5 in the series on chaos destruction. In this video, we'll be covering some tips and tricks to help you with your fracture workflow, along with how to create secondary assets for your simulation scene. Links to the epic documentation will be in the description below. So let's get started. Here we are with our stone arch that I've already converted into a geometry collection. Let's apply some fractures to it. We'll start with a simple uniform fracture with only 3 sites. Now, pick one of the larger bones and fracture it down even more. This will create our second level of fractures. Explode it out and let's take a look at it. What if we're not happy with this and we want to go back to the first level of fractures and redo level 2 again? There is no undo by level. And we can't use reset because that will remove all the levels. Here's a tip to get around that problem. Let's reapply our first level of fracture again. Now, before we apply our next level of fracture, click on the New button. This will create another geometry collection. Remove the extra GC_ prefix and append an _L2 to the end of the name. Then click Create Geometry Collection and apply another level of fractures. Now do another reset. You'll notice your first level is still there. What this did was to carry over all your current fractures into a new geometry collection asset. Now when we apply another level of fracture to one of our bones, and click on Reset, it removes only those fractures we applied to this geometry collection. So this workflow is a way to apply multiple levels of fracture without losing your previous fractures. The downside is that you can accumulate multiple geometry collections for the same mesh, so you'll need to manually manage your folder so it doesn't get too cluttered. So once again, we have our stone arch geometry collection that's been fractured, and we want to save each fracture as its own individual static mesh. In your fracture hierarchy, select the bones you want to convert. We'll just select all of them for this example. Now go to the Utilities section and click on To Mesh. Make sure Center Pivots is checked. And uncheck Place in World. Then click on Convert. Select the folder where you want to save your fracture meshes. Change the name to what you want to call your static meshes. I'm just going to go with SM_archfrac. Then click Save. Unreal will append the bone number to each static mesh it creates. Click on Save Selected. If you look in your folder, you'll see all your saved fractures. This is really handy if you need to add secondary assets, like additional debris to your scene. You can also use the foliage tool to scatter these around as needed. I've converted the stone arch geometry collection into a geometry cache and brought it into our scene. This is what the cache simulation looks like. So how do we save any frame of our cache simulation as a static mesh? Select your Chaos Cache player in your outliner and drag out your start time slider to the position of your cached sim you want to convert into a static mesh. For this example, I'm just going to grab the last frame of our cached simulation. Go back into fracture mode. This process is very similar to what we did in the previous chapter, with some slight differences. In your fracture hierarchy, select your root bone, which is level 0. This will save every bone in our geometry cache. Now go to the Utilities section and click on To Mesh. Make sure Center Pivots is not checked. This one is important. And uncheck Place in World. Then click on Convert. Select the folder where you want to save your cached fractures. Change the name to what you want to call them. I'm just going to go with SM_archfrac like before. Then click Save. Finally, click on Save Selected. Back in the outliner, delete the geometry cache from your scene. Go back to your folder and select all the cached fractures and drag them into your scene. From the menu bar, select Actor, then Merge Actors, and Merge. This will merge all the individual static meshes into a single mesh. Select a folder where you want to save your new merged mesh. Also specify a name for your new mesh. It will automatically prefix SM_ to it when you save it. Then click Save. In your outliner, delete all the individual cached fractures from your scene. Now, drag in your new merged static mesh. You'll notice that the pivot point is off. We'll fix that next. Go into modeling mode. Select X-Form, then Edit Pivot. Click on one of the position buttons to place the pivot where you want it. Bottom usually works best in this case, so click on Center, then click on Bottom. Finally, click Accept. Now, every time you drag this new mesh into your scene, its pivot will be exactly where you wanted it. That concludes this video on fracture mode tips and tricks. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. In part 6 of this series, we'll be looking at physical materials, which can help to add a sense of weight to your geometry collections during the simulation. I'll see you there.